Okay, so again, just want to welcome everybody to today's session. We're going to be covering the inventory control module, and specifically, we're going to be talking about kitting, okay, which is right here, and bills of material, and how Sage 300 inventory control allows you to have kits and utilize what we call simple or basic bills of material. Now, if you need a more complex bill of material, you may want to consider a third-party product to accommodate any kind of bills of material with work order tickets that you might need. There are several solutions available for Sage 300 that would accommodate full manufacturing. This is what we call a simple bill of material, which allows you to combine a number of components into a bill of material and thus utilize those to pull out parts or components of your stock and put them into a finished good that you can then sell. So with kitting, you are allowed to buy items that are bills of material, but with kitting, you're only making items into kits. So let's talk about the difference between a bill of materials and kits, because there is a difference. And the difference is that kitting takes existing items from your inventory and builds them into a kit that you might sell on a sales order, okay? And kitting items are never in stock, okay? So when you're setting up an item that is a kit item, it is not a stockable item because it's only the components that are stocked in Sage 300, and then when you use that kit on an order, it then pulls the subcomponents of that kit from inventory when you go to ship it, okay? And we'll talk a little bit about some of the requirements of kitting versus bills of material as well as we go along. Bills of material are where you have a finished good item as the bill of material, and you actually can sell that finished good item that is made up when you have different components that are making up that finished good item, and when you pull those components together, it creates the finished good of which you can sell it, okay? And not only can you sell it like the kit, but unlike the kit, you can stock it, okay? So a bill of material creates a finished good that you can stock, whereas a kitting item, finished good, is not a stockable item, okay? So that's the main difference. Also, kitting pulls from the unit costs of each kitted item. So if you have 10 different components that make up that kit, it's going to take all of those kitted items and put them and roll that cost up, and that's the cost that's used on the order entry. Whereas a bill of material, we can go in and actually add fixed cost or variable cost to the existing subcomponent items to get a finished good item that we stock and sell. So there are some things that you need to be aware of when you're setting up kits that you need to create. One of those is an account set, okay? When you are creating a kit, the item has to be set with an account set that is using a costing method of user specified, okay? So unless you have an account set that is set up specifically with user specified, you would not be able to create a new item number that you can use as a kit. So you do need to set up one costing method account set that's doing user specified. Why is it user specified, and what is the costing method user specified? User specified, when you're creating a kit, means that it's going to use the individual subcomponent items that you add to the kit to create the cost or the total cost that would roll up into the order entry kit, okay? So that's the main difference between bills of material and kitting as well, is that the account set for a kitted item always has to have user specified, okay? And it won't allow us to select an item when we're creating a brand new item to allow us to select the kitting option unless we have specified an account set. So that's step one of creating a kit. The next area that we need to be concerned about is when we're adding a new item, which we want to be a kit. We have to make sure that we select the right radio buttons down here in this area when we're creating that kit. So I'm going to create, first of all, a kit, and we're just going to call this a desk kit for simplicity, and we'll call it an accessory desk kit. And when we think of an accessory desk kit, we're thinking about adding things like pencils and pens and a calendar and maybe a stapler that would make up a new kit that we would sell to somebody that needed a kit for starting out in their new position. So the account set code is key here. We have to make sure that the costing method is user specified. Okay. Default price list, I'll just put in USA. Okay. Whether you want to allow this in web store, if you have any kind of web store integration, it's always going to default to allow it, but it's up to you on whether you actually want to select that or not if you have it integrated. The main thing here, though, is that we have to uncheck that this is a stock item, and when we do that, you'll notice that I can now select that this is a kitting type item. Okay? As soon as I select kitting type item, you'll notice that I can no longer select stock item. And that's because you don't stock a kit. Okay? A kit, again, is just items that you have in inventory that you're going to be combining into and selling it as a kit on a sales order or order entry. We could put in a unit weight if we know what the combined unit weight is of all of the items that make up the kit. Okay. We can also go in and define what our units of measure are. So perhaps in the kit we have more than one kit and we want to sell it by the each, which might be our default unit of measure. But we may also want to sell it in a case or a dozen. So if you do, you just need to add those additional units of measure. Once you've gotten past this area, we would hit Add. So now we have our new item number, which is pound desk kit. We also need to go in and put in some item pricing for that kit, right? So if we hit New here and type in desk kit, okay, we can go in and add the different price list codes by selecting New and then selecting the price list that we want. I'll put in USA for this one and then putting in our base price. So if we know that the base price for all of the components that are going to be in this kit is $100, then we can put that in here. Okay? Don't forget that you want to hit the Add button, and then if you have additional units of measure, you want to make sure that you go in and define what those are as well. So if you were selling this by a dozen factor, what would that cost be for a dozen? Okay, so maybe we're going to give a discount when it's done by the dozen. So if it's also any discounts based upon a customer type, those would need to be established. So your pricing is just the same as your normal items for when you're putting up kits. Okay, we'll save our item pricing and close that down. Now, do we need to put in a location? No. And why? That's because the kits are not stocked, okay? So it doesn't want to allow us to put in a non-stock item, and kits are not a stockable item, and they can't be because you're not stocking a kit, okay? Now, if you're telling me, Karen, we do want to stock kits, okay, well, if that's the case, then you need to create a bill of material and not a kit, okay, because that's the difference between a kit and a bill of material. A bill of material is something that you might stock permanently, which is a finished good that you're taking and turning into a good, whereas a kit is just something that you pull together out of your stock and put into an order entry, but you're selling it kind of as a kit. And I'll open that up to questions later if anybody has any confusion there, because I know sometimes kits versus bills of material can be a little bit confusing. once you have established your items, your item pricing, you're basically ready to create a kitted item. So let's go over here to our first kitting item, and the item number, we want to call it desk kit, okay, which is the item that we created a moment ago, and then it wants to know what is the kit number. So here we may want to call it kit number 1. We need to hit our go button, and that opens up, when we do so, all of the other fields that we are allowed to fill in with information. So in this description, we want to put in that this is a desk kit assembly, okay, or maybe we want to just put it's a desk kit, okay, for office supplies. Notice that our unit of measure is each here, okay. If we want to always use this one as the default on order entry, in other words, using this kit number, you can select that to always use. Now we go down in here to start selecting the components of the kit. So we talked about a desk calendar pad, and what quantity would you want for that? So if we're just supplying one office and one person within that office, we probably just want a quantity of 1. Okay? We can keep adding. So we might want a bulletin board as part of that. Keep adding. How about some highlighters? And in this case, we could actually say, you know what, we're going to give them a box of highlighters, okay, whereas these other units were just each. And let's give them some pens. And again, we'll make this into a box of pens. We'll add some more stuff here. How about a calculator? We only need 1 of those. And we definitely need a stapler. Now, I don't have red staplers in here. Unfortunately, for those of you that are Office Space fans, I wish we did, but we don't. Now, we see we have all these components that make up this kit. Okay? All of the cost of these items, when we sell this item on a sales order, would make up that kit. Okay? So there's no costing information that goes in here. So we're going to hit add, and we've now added our first kit to the system. At this point in time, we can go over to order entry, and we can add that kit to an order. I'll just come down here and put that kit in. And notice we chose the default, which was kit 1. Okay? Now, if there was more than 1 kit number, okay, we could select that here. So what does that mean? Well, that means that if we had gone over here to our kitting items and we put in desk kit and kit 1, okay, bring up all those components, we could actually create a kit number 2, okay? And when we do kit 2, maybe it's the same components, okay, which is the desk calendar. It's our bulletin board, the highlighters, and we're going to do a box here. Pens. Oops. I guess I missed my highlighters, so let me go back and grab those really quick. And let's get that calculator in there, 1 calculator. So what is this going to do now? If we have the unit of measure that has changed, okay, we might need to go back in and edit this kit and change that unit of measure to be for whatever our desk kit was here. So if you have more than 1 kit that's using a different either components, okay, or using a different unit of measure, okay, you can go in and create a separate kit. So if we said, let's just change this back to EA for each, let me put that here. the other kit was using box, this truly is a unique and separate kit than kit number 1. So if we close this now, let me save it and close it, and we go back to our order entry, you'll notice that we now have that second kit, okay? And the difference is that we are using boxes on the first kit and we're using eaches on the second kit, okay? So if we go in to that kit, we can see those different items. We also know what location we're pulling it from. So that means that when we're selling this kit, we're pulling all of the subcomponents out of location 1. Okay? So if we put a quantity ordered in here of 5, okay, then that means that's how many we're putting on this particular sales order. So if we're using kit 1, we know that it's going to be using boxes for some of those items, right? So in this case, you're going to have ordered 5 kits, which will have all of the subcomponents in the unit of measure. Now, we can go into the quantity shipped later and start putting in the quantities and specifically indicating what unit of measures for each of the components of the kit as well. So for now, I'm just going to hit post on this. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with using order entry. We'll go to the shipment. It's going to be new shipment, of course. And we'll pick up that order number that we just put in. And there again, we have our kit number, okay? And we have everything coming out of location 1. And then we have our quantity shipped. Now, if we go up to quantity shipped, we're just indicating here that there's no issues with serialized or lotted items, so there's nothing that we need to pick from here because none of the components on that kit are serialized or lot controlled, so we can just indicate the quantity that we're shipping. Now, when we ship these items, what it's going to do is it's going to pull all of these components out. So we've indicated that we need to pull 5 boxes here, but 5 eaches for all of these others, okay? We also can see from this kitting component screen that we have stock on hand in each of these locations. So that can be important as well, because if you're shipping below quantity on hand, then you also need to have allow negative inventory turned on if you are going to be shipping items that don't have enough quantity on hand, which I do not ever recommend, by the way. I know that there are some situations where your company may need to ship and create a negative inventory on hand amount, but I don't recommend it because of all of the costing methods and the buckets within Sage 300 and how Sage 300 handles negative inventory. It can get you into a real pickle. So we do have sufficient quantities on hand for each of these items, and even with these different units of measure for box and each. So we have sufficient quantities, and that's one way that you can make sure that you do have sufficient quantities when you're doing the shipment of your order, is to go down into the components box, which is down here, and that's how I brought this screen up so that you can check that out. Okay, I am going to close this window, and if I hit post, that's just going to record that shipment, just as normal. So not a lot of difference there when you're shipping a kitted item, other than you have this new components button that you might want to pay attention to when you're shipping things out. And you are allowed to make adjustments to those components on that one screen as well at the time that you're doing the shipments. That covers our kitting items, okay? So just to recap, we have to make sure that we have in our account set, we have an appropriate user-specified cost when we're creating a kit type item, okay? Otherwise, it won't allow us to select in the item screen when we're adding a kit. It would not allow us to add that kitting item. So if you're not using the account set code that's user specified and selecting the kitting item box, you won't be allowed to create a kit. So that's key to when you're creating kits. You also want to make sure that the stock item, it'll be selected as a default. You want to unselect it, and at that point in time, it would allow you to pick that kitting item. But again, as long as the user or the account set code is set to the user specified cost. Let's move on to your bills of material now. So bills of material, before you can create a master item number, which is the finished good item number, by the way, we want to make sure that you've set that item up first over in Inventory Control, IC Items and Price List. So if we go over here and we create a new BOM number, we'll just call it that. We're going to give it a structure code of long. Category, again, this is just whatever that bill of material might belong to. So in this case, maybe the bill of material belongs to the packaging because maybe it's a package that we're going to put together. The account set code can be any of these other than user specified. That would not be a good choice unless, of course, you're going to be keeping up that bill of material with your own user-specified cost, which I don't recommend because normally we want to take all of the cost of our items or our subcomponents that make up the bill of material and allow that to roll up and be our finished good cost. So maybe you want this to be moving average. I'll let you make that determination. Also assigning a default price list, so I'll just give it the United States of America. And in here, again, you can see that it wants to default some of these to help you out. So at this point, you can either select if your finished good is serialized or lotted, or if it's a seasonal type item. Okay. Just FYI, you cannot have a bill of material also be a kitted item. Okay. That's not possible. You can put in a unit weight if you want to here, or if you're waiting on a finished good boxed weight, you can certainly put in things like the unit weight later. Unit of measure, this is going to be what is the stock method here, so we'll just put one each. If you have additional ways that you're going to sell this bill of material, this finished good item, okay, which we've just called BOM, you can add additional units of measure as there as well. Any taxes that you need to add for that bill of material, you want to go ahead and set those up at that time. We're going to hit Add. Close this window down. You also then can go through the normal adding vendors. So if you're purchasing this item from other vendors, in addition to your company making the item, you can go ahead and set those things up as well. Also, if you have customer details where you're wanting to put in your customer's item number that maps to your item number, you can do that. I'm going to go in and add our price list for this item. So I can say new, and we'll put in a price list code of USA. Put in our cost, or excuse me, our price, not our cost, $500. What that pricing unit of measure is, and that's important. And if you're using different units of measure, you may also want to have different pricing units of measure to match that. I'm just going to be very basic here. Not going to go over all the different pricing methods that can be used here. That's a different class, along with the discounts and how you might be doing that. So this is a whole different class to talk about all of these different options in here. So we're just going to shy away from getting into too much detail, or what I call the weeds at this point in time, and just talking about the bill of material. So now that we've set up the item pricing, we also need to set up the location details, because each item that is a bill of material, which is a finished good, okay, it needs to have a location. So let's just assume that we're going to give it location 1, and we do want to allow that item to be received in to that location. And at this point, that's all we need to do. We don't want to put any quantities on hand at this point in time because we haven't done any assemblies. So we save that and close that location. You can also add additional locations if you need to or want to. So feel free to add as many locations that you know that finished good will exist in at this point in time. If you have somebody else that also manufactures this finished good, you can go ahead at this point in time and put those in as well. Also, if there are reorder quantities that you want to establish for this item, you can put those in as well. So if you're used to using the item wizard, okay, which is this button here, to add your items, you can use that as well. And you can use the item wizard to add both kits and bills of material. I find it easier just for myself to go through and add the things that I need in order to get it to work at a basic level. But if using the items wizard is something you're more comfortable with, it will accommodate adding bills of material and kitted type items and walk you through the appropriate steps to do so. Bills of material is the next area. This is where we actually go in and create our first bill of material. So what I'm going to do is bring up that finished good item, which we just created, called BOM. And we have it there. This is the bill of material for Karen's training. And it wants to know the first thing, which might be the BOM number. So just like our kits, we could have multiple kits. You can have multiple bills of material. Why would we have that? Well, if there's an engineering change order for a particular bill of material, which happens very frequently in many manufacturing environments, we sometimes want to create an entirely different bill of material number. So you can have multiple BOM numbers and having these things active or inactive, okay? We can indicate whether we want to use this as a default and then give it a description. Okay. What is our fixed cost? In other words, whenever we make this item, whether we make 1 or 100, what is the fixed cost to do that? Maybe it costs $10 to make that item. Whether we make 1 or 100 of them, it's still the same process. Okay. So that's what fixed costs are for, and it will add that fixed cost to the items and spread that fixed cost out over across the quantity. So if you know that whenever you make this item, you're always going to make a build quantity of at least 10. Okay, you may as well put your build quantity in here of 10, which also then means that $1 of our fixed cost will get spread to this 10. The variable cost would be, what is the variable cost per build quantity? Okay, so if we know that our variable cost, and variable cost might be electricity, it could be labor, whatever variable cost that you know you might be incurring for an item, you can put those in here. So if we know that a variable cost is $1 per build quantity, which we've already stated our build quantity is 10, we then know that every time we build one of these with a quantity of 10, because that's our base quantity here, it's always going to cost $2 per. right? Because we have $1 here, and then we're saying we have another $1 here of variable cost per each unit that we build. What is our unit of measure in this case? Well, again, we can say each EA. We have to be specific here because of the way we set Sage up. When do you want the start date of this bill of material to go into effect? So in this case, we want to say October 1st of the year 2020. And we know if there is an end date, you can put that in here. So if you know this is only going to be good up through the year 2021, before the bill of material will be revised or reviewed again, you could go ahead and put the end date in, or you could just leave it blank. Okay. Any comments that you want to make about the bill of material? These don't get printed on anything, okay? They're just there for you to come back into this screen to review. At this point in time, we now need to go in and start building those components. So in this instance, if we are building something, for instance, we need to start picking the components that make up the finished good, okay? Now, all I have here in my sample data is office supplies, okay? So let's just go and say that we're going to be building a whole office, okay? And so it's up to us to put that office together. So in this case, I might be putting in a chair, okay? And how many chairs per build quantity? Well, we want 1. But if you put 2 chairs in every office, you may want to be changing these quantities in such a manner there. If the component has its own bill of material number, we could put that in here, but it doesn't. And then any unit cost that might be associated with that. I'm going to continue to add items. We're going to put in a desk lamp. We're going to put in a stapler. We're also going to put in this desk accessories kit. It's not a kit, actually, that's a bomb as well. Sorry, didn't mean to be confusing there. And let's go put in this filing cabinet system. Okay, and I'm going to hit add now. So I've added these components. I'm going to hit add. And now we have all of the items that go into this. Now, we have underneath here all components. It is also possible that you can use other bills of material to make up your bill of material. So if, let's say, you have another item that you need to add that is a bill of material, we can go in and utilize that additional bill of material to add to this particular item. So if one of these was a bill of material, we can add that and it would create that additional bill of material item as a component item. Let's go down here. And save. So you're just basically adding components to an item, meaning a finished good item, and that's what your master item number is. Any questions I'll take in just a minute. I'm sure you guys might have a few. So I want to go in and talk about some other bills of material that are in here. So let's go to some other bills of material that we have, because we just created the one. So these are just some examples of some other bills of material that are already in the system. I want to go to this first one, and this is in the sample data, which all of you should have access to. You'll notice that there's a little plus sign next to this F3 Hunt 2500. If I click on that plus sign, we can see that this also is a bill of material. How do I know that? Well, I can see that there are components that make up that bill of material. Okay, so if I double click on this, it's going to open up that bill of material, okay, that makes up that finished good item number, which is also a bill of material, and then these are the components that go into it. Now, why don't we see these components in this list over here? Well, that's because this is a tree version, if you will, and the components are here. Now, something to note, when you're building out this bill of material or creating the assembly, okay, you would need to make sure that you have plenty of these on hand or that they are pre-built before you decide to build this finished good, okay? Unless you have your inventory set to go negative, which again, I will say again, I do not recommend that you go set your inventory up for negative. But this item, finished good, components are listed here. And we have these finished goods rolling up into the parent finished good here. And then these are all subcomponents underneath that finished good. So when we go over, I'm just going to copy this item, and we add this to an order. We'll use our trusty Ron Black customer. Oops. It's asking for the kit/BOM. Okay, so it wants to know what bill of material do you want to use. Okay, so you can see that there is a difference in these, and it's based upon the quantity, the build quantity. So that's the difference here between these two different bills of material. We'll choose the first one. Okay. We're going to pull it from location 1 if there is enough in stock, and then enter how many quantities we want, which I'm just going to say 1. Now, we can see that there are 18 on hand in this location right now. Okay. If we didn't have enough of those on hand, okay, for instance, if we moved to a different location, we have 0 in the Portland office. So if I select that, it's now saying I have 0 on hand. Well, what does that mean? First of all, unless you have allow negative inventory turned on, which again I don't recommend, that means you need to build some of these items in order to put them in stock at location 2. Or you need to do a transfer from warehouse 1 to warehouse 2 and move the material between the warehouses. Okay, but if we know we don't have enough on hand in location 2, we can then build an assembly. Assemblies are only utilized for bills of material. Okay, so here we can indicate that we want to create a new assembly number. We have a choice here between assembly or disassembly. Okay, so if you have already assembled parts and you need to disassemble them because maybe you need to sell the subcomponents, okay, it is possible to do a disassembly and put all of the assembly that you previously did back into stock. But in this instance, we're going to build an assembly. Okay, we indicate the date we want it to happen, the posting date for the GL, and what is the master item number. We then need to pick what bill of material. We're going to choose bill of material 1 with the build quantity of 1 that we want to build. We're going to choose our location, which we know we want to put this in location 2, right, to satisfy our sales order. Okay. We can also then verify the quantities. So this button down here, verify quantities. So all of the items, these are component items with insufficient quantities to assemble, and these are component items not found in the location. So it appears that we have enough to make this build happen. So now it's asking us, do you want to delete the assembly after posting? And I'm going to say no, because I always want to keep my records of what I've done. Okay, so now if I go into my item location details for that particular finished good, which also happens to be a bill of material, we can see that we now have one on hand. Okay, we also have a cost associated with that. Okay, and you can follow that through. But we should now also, if we hit post here, we also now should have a quantity on hand down here, which we did not before. At this point in time, we can ship this item, if it's the only item on the order, and we can hit post. If I want to print the picking ticket, I can. And I could tell it to have print the bill of materials on the component items too. I accidentally hit the print button too fast there. Let's try that again. So now on our picking slip, we can see that it's listing the finished good item, the subcomponents of that, and then also don't forget it's creating that finished good item here as well. And it's also putting all of those component items of the finished good in there as well. So it literally breaks this down into the smallest child record that's required to make up this finished good. Okay, I'm going to open this back up to unmute it. And so I want to just make sure that anybody who has questions about today's session has a chance to ask questions. So I'll open the conversation up. We still are recording. At this time, I'll take questions regarding the training that we've done today on bills of material and kitting items. Does anybody have any questions?
I had a question, Karen. When we use both bill of materials and a couple kitting items, and the difficulty I'm having is I'm really used to using the stock item reports, like the IC stock control reports and different things like that, location details. Do you have an easy way to see reports on kitting items, like how many have been sold and different? I guess I'm having a hard time because I'm used to using stocked items and all the reports that come with that. And since the kit isn't a stocked item, it's just the components.
Right.
What's an easy way for me to see? Like we sell a kit that has like 11 books in it that are all, separate books, and I wanted to see how many of those kits we sold. What's an easy way to do that?
The easiest way would be to open up your IC item inquiry, which is underneath the ops inquiry, and I'm trying to launch mine now, but it doesn't appear to be launching. Nancy, do you have the ops inquiry installed there? Because that would be the best way to go and view those items.
I think we do. I see it. I wonder if okay, let me see if I can launch it. So under IC item inquiry is where I need to go?
Yeah, well, it's underneath ops inquiry. It's a separate module from inventory control, and then IC item inquiry.
Right,
and,
I have that.
Mine isn't loading, probably because I don't have my database set up properly for it.
It looks like mine is trying to load. So just in there is where I'm going to be able to find that.
Right, yeah, you should be able to see how many you've sold and other things regarding the kit or the bill of material, depending upon what you're looking at. And I apologize for not being able to have mine readily available for everybody to see today.
And actually, I just got mine to come up on my side, so that's where I was missing. I forgot about the ops inquiry. So.
Yeah, that's a great tool to use. I try to do a lot of training on that when I'm training our new clients, because that really is a view into the very finite details of items and what items are on bills of material. So I really like the ops inquiry, and it's free. There's no additional charge to use that tool. So if you don't have it and you do have inventory control, order entry, or PO module, I'd strongly encourage you to reach out to your consultant and try to get that installed and set up for you, because it's really relatively easy to do and to use.
Do you have a class on that sometimes?
I do. There's probably, if you go out to our tandemtechnologiesllc.com website, there is probably a training session on IC item inquiry, or I've slipped it into one of the other inventory control module trainings.
Okay,
but I have done training on that in the past, I know. And I can certainly put that on. I can put that on the agenda to do again too.
I'd be up for that. You mentioned we had a phone conference with you another time, and you mentioned it in passing, and we didn't pursue that at that time, and I forgot about that. So thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, let's keep going, because I want to tell you about some other features of bills of material. So if we copy bills of material, what does that mean? It means that we're going to take a bill of material that we've already created. In this case, we could take BOM, which is the one I just created, and copy it to pound BOM 2, okay, and creating another item, and of course it has to exist first before you can create it, and then copying it to another bill of material number. And what it'll do is it'll copy all of the subcomponents from this master BOM over to your new bill of material number, okay? So it's a great tool to utilize when you want to take, without doing a lot of work, and basically copy one BOM into a new BOM. And what are some reasons you want to do that? Well, it might be because the other bill of material has totally expired, or maybe it's because you want to change the build quantity on a bill of material, okay? And this is an easy way to go in and change up the build quantity without having to go in and remember what are all the components that I used on my prior bill of material. So copying is a great way to utilize that feature. Update bills of material. This would be, for instance, if we have a bill of material number, and let's just put 1 to 1 here, and we wanted to replace some components. So if we said, well, let's take and replace, I think with that bill of material we used a fluorescent desk lamp, and let's just say that we wanted to then replace it with halogen desk lamp because of demand from our clients. So we can go in and say, wherever you find in this bill of material, to this bill of material, this component item number, replace it and use that one instead, okay? So if we hit the update button, that will go in and find every bill of material. In this case, I only chose one, which was the one we previously created, and it finds those items and then replaces them. We can also use this to update costs, okay? So if we say we want to update the fixed cost or the variable cost, maybe it's costing a lot more now to assemble this particular bill of material because the price of electricity went up by, say, a 5% increase. So in that case, we hit update, and it'll go in and update those costs. So let's go back in now and look at that bill of material, and we should be able to see how it changed. So I need to hit my go button here in order to bring up those components. So we can see now that it swapped out the actual halogen desk lamp, and we can also see that it turned my variable cost up a notch. So it was at $1, if you remember correctly, and it's now at a 5% increase on that dollar, which is 1.05 cents per build. Okay. So those are some neat features with your copy bills of material and update bills of material. And that is all I have to show you today for using bills of material and kitting. Does anybody else have any other questions that they want to ask at this time? All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for participating today. I look forward to next month and having you on board. And as always, we're open to suggestions for classes. So if you have a special feature in Sage that you're wanting to know a little bit more about or that you're curious about, I hope you'll let us know by emailing us or just giving us a call. Thanks very much, everybody, for attending today's session.